Close your eyes for a second, Sarah. Tell me what you see when I say the word angel.
Okay, I see a beautiful man, maybe glowing a little. White robes, large feathery swan wings, maybe a halo. Very Renaissance, very comforting.
Exactly. You see a human with a bird upgrade. You see what the Vatican wants you to see. A celestial being that looks just like us, only better. A protector that feels familiar. But what if I told you that image is a lie? What if I told you that the entities described in the original texts aren't men in robes, but geometric horrors composed of spinning metal, fire, and thousands of unblinking eyes?
You are talking about biblically accurate angels. It's become a huge meme on the internet lately. People realizing that the descriptions in the Old Testament are, well, terrifying.
It's not a meme, Sarah. It's a suppressed reality. Today on Cryptic Vector, we are looking at the Ophanim, the wheels, the highest-ranking, most bizarre, and most terrifying order of angels in the celestial hierarchy. And we are going to ask the question, why did the Church spend 2,000 years erasing them from art, architecture, and consciousness? Why did they replace the wheels of fire with chubby babies holding harps?
Erasing is a strong word. I think it was more about artistic license. It's hard to paint a spinning wheel of eyes on a church ceiling and make people feel comforted. Religion is about comfort, Vector. If you put a Lovecraftian monster above the altar, people run screaming. It's branding.
It's not branding, it's censorship. Because if you read the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verses 15 through 21, the description isn't vague, it is technical. Ezekiel isn't describing a dream. He is describing a close encounter. He says, "As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature. Their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl, and the four had the same likeness. Their appearance and structure were, as it were, a wheel within a wheel."
A wheel within a wheel. Gyroscopes.
Exactly. And it gets worse. As for their rims, they were high and awesome, and the rims of all four were full of eyes all around. Imagine that standing in front of you, a massive, interlocking gyroscopic structure, glowing like molten metal, beryl or chrysolite, hovering above the ground, and covered in sentient eyes that are watching you from every angle. It doesn't have a face, it doesn't have hands, it doesn't speak, it just spins.
Okay, I admit, that is nightmare fuel. But Ezekiel was a prophet known for, let's call them, intense visions. He was in exile in Babylon. He was under immense stress. Many scholars think he was using metaphors. The eyes represent omniscience, God seeing everything. The wheels represent God's mobility. He can go anywhere. It's poetry, Vector. You aren't supposed to take it literally.
That is the standard seminary excuse. It's a metaphor. But why is the metaphor so mechanical? Why isn't it an animal or a storm? Why a structure? Ezekiel is very specific about the movement. He says, "When the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures rose from the earth, the wheels rose." He describes a propulsion system. These aren't biological beings, Sarah. They are vehicles, or they are entities so alien to our biology that the human mind snaps when it sees them.
So you're saying the Ophanim are machines?
I'm saying they are the thrones of God. That's their other name, the thrones. They carry the divine presence. And the Church realized very early on that you cannot build a religion of control if the servants of God look like monsters.
Monsters is a harsh term for an angel.
Is it? The first thing every angel in the Bible says when they appear to a human is, "Do not be afraid." Why? Because the natural reaction to seeing an angel isn't awe, it's terror. It's the flight or fight response kicking in, because you are looking at an apex predator from another dimension. The Ophanim are the most extreme version of this. They are the guardians of the throne, and the Church decided to banish their image. Go to a cathedral, look at the stained glass. You see Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Human faces. Where are the wheels? Where are the eyes?
They do appear in some Byzantine art, the icons. But you're right, in the West, specifically in Catholicism, they vanished.
They vanished because the Council of Nicaea and subsequent theological debates wanted to humanize the divine. They wanted God to be Father and the angels to be messengers. If you show the public that the messengers are actually 40-foot spinning rings of fire and glass, people start asking questions about what God actually is.
What questions?
Questions like, are we worshiping a creator? Or are we worshiping a civilization that travels in gyroscopic crafts?
It's not an implication. It's a direct reading of the text. Ezekiel says, "The spirit of the living creature was in the wheels, a machine with a spirit, a sentient craft." The Vatican knows this interpretation exists, and that is why they sanitized the art. They needed angels to be spiritual beings, not technological entities. Because if they are technological, then they aren't supernatural. They are just advanced.
That is a massive leap. You're taking a mystic vision from 600 BC and projecting 21st century sci-fi onto it. It looks like a saucer, so it must be a saucer. Maybe Ezekiel just didn't have the vocabulary to describe a multidimensional being. If I saw a 4D object moving through 3D space, it might look like shifting wheels too. It doesn't mean it's a spaceship. It means it's beyond physics.
Beyond physics is just a euphemism for science we don't understand yet. But look at the reaction of the Church. During the Middle Ages, when alchemy and mysticism were rising, the Church cracked down hard on unauthorized descriptions of angels. They limited the named angels to 3: Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. They explicitly told people not to obsess over the hierarchy. Why? Because the deeper you go into the hierarchy, the seraphim, the cherubim, the Ophanim, the less human it gets.
The seraphim are the burning ones, right? With 6 wings?
6 wings, 2 to cover their face, 2 to cover their feet, 2 to fly. They burn with fire. And the cherubim, oh, the cherubim are the biggest lie of all. You think of fat babies? The Bible describes cherubim as having 4 faces: a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. And they have hoofs.
Hoofs?
Like a calf's foot. They are chimeras, hybrids. The Church took these terrifying, animalistic, geometric monsters and turned them into cute mascots. That is a deliberate disinformation campaign, Sarah. They didn't want you to know that the kingdom of heaven looks more like a biomechanical hive than a cloud city.
Disinformation? Or simplification? Maybe the average peasant in 1200 AD couldn't handle the idea of a 4-faced oxman or a spinning wheel of eyes. The Church simplifies things to make them digestible. God is love. Angels are helpers. It's a narrative choice, not a cover-up.
Narrative choices are cover-ups when you are dealing with the truth of the universe. By changing the image, they changed the relationship. They made us feel special. Angels look like us, so God must look like us. But if angels look like that, then we are nothing like them. We are ants looking at a fighter jet. And that feeling, that cosmic insignificance, is what the Church wanted to suppress.
I think you're underestimating the power of the weird. People love the weird. If the Church had marketed the wheel angels, maybe they would have been even more popular. Come see the spinning fire gods. It's metal.
It's too metal. It implies a coldness. A wheel doesn't smile at you. A wheel doesn't hold your hand when you die. A wheel processes data. A wheel executes commands. The Ophanim represent the absolute, terrifying order of the cosmos. And humans need a face to look at.
So they gave us faces.
They gave us masks. But the masks are slipping, because people are seeing the wheels again.
If the public knew that God's army looked like a swarm of autonomous kill drones, the Pope's hat starts to look a little silly. Sarah laughs nervously. Okay, the kill drones comment is heavy, but there is a grain of truth there. Religious institutions do tend to filter out the mystical experiences that challenge their authority. The Gnostics were wiped out for exactly that reason. They claimed direct access to the divine. Vector, and the Gnostics wrote about the archons.
Seeing them where?
In the sky, over nuclear silos, over the ocean. The UAP reports released by the Pentagon describe spheres within spheres and spinning disks. The pilots aren't calling them Ophanim, but Ezekiel would.
Okay, let's ground this. You're drawing a line between a 2,500-year-old religious text and blurry Navy videos of tic-tacs in the sky. That is a stretch, even for you. And frankly, there's a much simpler explanation for what Ezekiel saw than ancient spaceships or interdimensional entities.
And let me guess, it involves a medical diagnosis.
It involves neuroscience. Many neurologists and historians have analyzed Ezekiel's text. They point to temporal lobe epilepsy. When people have seizures in the temporal lobe, they experience hyper-religiosity, vivid visual hallucinations, and the sensation of a presence. They often see geometric patterns, spirals, wheels, flashing lights.
God helmet argument.
It fits. Ezekiel describes the heavens opening. He sees fire. He sees lightning moving back and forth. That sounds exactly like the aura of a massive migraine or a seizure. He wasn't looking at a machine vector. He was looking at the misfiring neurons of his own brain. The eyes on the wheels? That's called scintillating scotoma. It's a visual disturbance where you see shimmering, eye-like patterns. The church didn't ban the description. They just interpreted a sick man's hallucination as a divine message.
That is a very convenient way to dismiss the data. He was crazy. But here is the problem with the epilepsy theory. Hallucinations are chaotic. They are dreamlike. They don't follow the laws of physics. But Ezekiel's description is rigid. He describes the movement of the wheels in relation to the creatures with the precision of a technical manual. When they went upon their four sides. They turned not when they went.
Meaning they moved without turning?
Meaning they were omnidirectional. They could move on the X, Y, and Z axes instantly without banking or turning a steering mechanism. That is a specific type of locomotion that we are only just now beginning to understand with drone technology and anti-gravity theory. A man having a seizure doesn't hallucinate perfect aerodynamic principles that wouldn't be invented for 2,000 years.
Or he just meant they moved straight. You're reading engineering into poetry.
I'm reading the text, and Ezekiel isn't the only one. Let's talk about the halo.
The halo? The ring of light over an angel's head?
The glowing disc. In medieval art, it's a flat gold plate behind the head. In the Renaissance, it's a floating ring. Where do you think that imagery comes from?
It represents holiness, the divine light radiating from them. It's an artistic convention used by Greeks and Romans too.
It's a corrupted memory, Sarah. The artists were trying to depict the Ophanim, the wheel. Think about it. If an entity descends from the sky, and it is surrounded by a glowing, spinning wheel of light, a rim full of eyes or lights, and you are a primitive artist trying to draw it, you draw a circle around the being. Over time, that circle shrinks. It becomes a symbol. It becomes a halo. But the original source wasn't a symbol of holiness. It was the structure of the craft. The angel wasn't wearing a hat. The angel was inside the wheel.
So you're saying every painting of a saint with a halo is actually depicting an astronaut in a docking ring?
I'm saying the iconography has a physical origin, and the church knew it. Why do you think the halo became a mandatory rule in religious art for centuries? They standardized the lie. Make it look holy, not mechanical. Because if people realized the glory of the Lord described in the Bible, the cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night, was actually a physical object, the mystery evaporates.
It doesn't evaporate, it just changes. But let's stick to the ban. You claim the church actively suppressed the true form. But the tetramorph, the four living creatures Ezekiel saw alongside the wheels, is on almost every cathedral in Europe. The lion, the ox, the eagle, the man. They represent the four evangelists: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The church didn't hide them. They put them on the front door.
They rebranded them. That is the key. They took the living creatures, the cherubim, and turned them into symbols for the gospel writers. They stripped them of their literal nature. In the Bible, the cherubim are the guards. They guard the tree of life with a flaming sword which turned every way. Again, spinning, rotating fire. But in church dogma, they became metaphors for writing books. They neutered the monsters, Sarah. They turned the cosmic guards into library mascots.
Neutered the monsters. You have a way with words. But why? Let's assume you're right. Let's assume the Vatican has a secret vault, which they do, containing texts that describe the Ophanim as terrifying machines. Why hide it? Fear?
Control. The Catholic Church, and organized religion in general, is built on the concept of the intercessor, the priest, the bishop, the pope. They stand between you and God. They translate the divine for you. But the Ophanim represent a direct, overwhelming contact with the absolute. If you see a wheel, you don't need a priest. You need a clean pair of pants. The experience is too raw, too alien. It destroys the hierarchy. If the public knew that God's army looked like a swarm of autonomous kill drones, the Pope's hat starts to look a little silly.
Okay, the kill drones comment is heavy, but there is a grain of truth there. Religious institutions do tend to filter out the mystical experiences that challenge their authority. The Gnostics were wiped out for exactly that reason. They claimed direct access to the divine.
And the Gnostics wrote about the archons, the rulers, entities that patrol the boundaries of the universe. Their descriptions align perfectly with the Ophanim, barriers, wheels, gatekeepers. The Church declared Gnosticism a heresy and burned their books. They literally burned the descriptions of the real angels to protect the fantasy angels.
But we have the descriptions now. The internet is flooded with biblically accurate angel animations. If the Church wanted to suppress it, they failed.
They succeeded for 1,500 years. That's a pretty good run. The only reason we are talking about it now is because the information age has made censorship impossible. We can cross-reference Ezekiel with the Hindu Vedas, which describe vimanas, flying palaces that spin and glow. We can compare it to the Kachina spirits of the Hopi, who came from the sky on flying shields. The data is converging. The Ophanim aren't just a Christian secret. They are a global phenomenon.
A global phenomenon of people seeing wheels in the sky. It could just be a universal archetype. Jung would say the mandala, the circle, the wheel, is the symbol of the self, the wholeness. We project it onto the sky because it's deep in our subconscious. It's not aliens, Vector. It's psychology.
Jung was a smart man, but he also believed in UFOs. He wrote an entire book about them. He knew that psychology doesn't explain why the wheels leave radar traces.
Radar traces? Ezekiel didn't have radar.
No, but the U.S. Navy does. And the spheres they are tracking, the ones that can drop from space to sea level in seconds, they don't have wings, they don't have engines, they don't have heat signatures. They are just geometry, spinning geometry.
You are desperately trying to link the Bible to the Pentagon.
I am saying they are tracking the same thing. The Vatican called them Ophanim. The Pentagon calls them UAP. But the description hasn't changed in 3,000 years. A wheel within a wheel, full of eyes, meaning sensors, meaning data collection.
Sensors? So the eyes of God are just cameras?
The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth. Zechariah 4:10. Sounds like a surveillance grid to me.
That is the most cynical, dystopian interpretation of Scripture I have ever heard. You're turning heaven into a police state.
It was always a kingdom, Sarah. Kingdoms have armies, kingdoms have guards, and kingdoms have surveillance. We just decided to pretend it was a nursery because the truth was too scary to sleep with.
So, if the Ophanim are real, and they are here, what are they watching?
They are watching us, and they are waiting for the signal to stop spinning and start acting.
Acting? Doing what?
The Ophanim don't just watch. In the apocalypse, they are the engines of judgment. We talk about the sight of the Ophanim, the wheels, the eyes, the fire. But we haven't talked about the sound. That is the part that usually breaks people.
The Bible mentions angel choirs, harps, singing Holy, Holy, Holy.
That is the sanitized version again. Ezekiel is very specific about the acoustic signature of these machines. He says, "And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty, the voice of speech, as the noise of an host."
Noise of great waters. That sounds like white noise, or a waterfall.
It sounds like a roar, a deafening, mechanical roar. In other translations, it is described as the noise of a tumult, or the sound of an army. Imagine a low-frequency vibration that you feel in your teeth before you hear it with your ears. A sound so loud, it vibrates the foundation of the building. Does that sound like a choir to you? Or does it sound like a propulsion drive?
It sounds like a jet engine taking off.
Exactly. And this connects to a modern phenomenon that the media loves to ignore: the hum, or the sky trumpets.
I've seen the videos on YouTube. People recording these weird metallic grinding noises coming from the sky in Canada, Ukraine, Indonesia. Scientists say it's atmospheric pressure, or tectonic plates grinding together, or just industrial noise echoing.
Tectonic plates. That is the go-to excuse for everything. But listen to the witnesses. They describe a metallic sound, a trumpet that sounds less like a brass instrument and more like a scraping of metal against the sky. The book of Revelation talks about the 7 trumpets that announce the apocalypse. What if the trumpet isn't an instrument? What if it's the sound of the Ophanim entering our atmosphere?
That is terrifying. You're saying the end of the world will start with a sonic boom?
I'm saying that when the church painted angels playing harps, they were trying to hide the fact that the arrival of the divine is a traumatic acoustic event. They wanted you to think it would be a concert, but the text says it will be a great noise. The Ophanim are the heavy machinery of God, and when heavy machinery starts up, it gets loud.
So let's follow this to the end. The church bans the image. They ban the description of the sound. They turn the wheels into thrones. Why? What is the ultimate secret they are protecting?
They are protecting the narrative of human importance.
Explain.
If angels are beautiful men with wings, then we are the center of attention. We are made in God's image. We are family. But if angels are cold, spinning, multi-eyed geometric constructs that roar like waterfalls, then we are not family. We are subjects. We are an ant colony being watched by a microscope. The Ophanim don't care about your feelings, Sarah. They don't care if you are a good person. They operate on a logic we cannot comprehend.
It makes the universe feel cold, impersonal.
It makes the universe real. The church realized that humans cannot worship something that terrifies them this much. We need a buddy Jesus. We need a guardian angel. We can't handle the cosmic horror. So they put a mask on the monster. But the mask is cracking. We are seeing the wheels. We are hearing the hum. And the church is running out of paint to cover it up.
You know, I came into this thinking we were just talking about art history. Why did the Renaissance painters change the style? But you've turned it into an existential crisis. If you're right, then the rapture, or the second coming, won't look like a painting. It will look like an invasion.
It will look like the sky filling with spinning eyes. And the tragedy is, because the church erased the description, when it happens, nobody will know what they are looking at. People will scream, "Alien invasion." The military will fire missiles. And we will be declaring war on the very entities that claim to be our creators.
We will shoot at the angels because we don't recognize them.
We will shoot at the Ophanim because they look like threats. And that, Sarah, might be the final irony. The church's censorship might be the very thing that damns us. By hiding the truth of the wheels, they have ensured that when they return, we will treat them as enemies.
And what happens when you shoot a missile at a wheel within a wheel made of chrysolite and fire?
Ezekiel says fire came out of the wheels and was scattered over the city. I don't think we want to find out what kind of weaponry a throne of God possesses.
I'm never going to look at a stained glass window the same way again.
Good. Look past the glass. Look for the geometry. Because the truth isn't in the face of the angel Sarah. It's in the machine behind him.
I think I need to go listen to some very quiet, very human music. This episode has been loud.
The silence is a luxury. Enjoy it while it lasts, before the trumpets start.
This has been Cryptic Vector. I'm Sarah, and I'm officially afraid of wheels.
And I am Vector. Remember, do not be afraid. Unless you hear the hum, then be very afraid.
Goodbye.
End transmission.